Greetings, today on my Focus RS I am installing the lower engine mount small bush from Powerflex. Here we are then, the lower engine mount small bush PFF191221 from Powerflex. As you can see, it's the purple Powerflex as opposed to the Black Series version, which you can get if you want. But I didn't want to go too harsh. I wanted it to complement the setup that we already have, which is the Mountune rear motor mount, also known as the roll restrictor, which of course has a yellow Powerflex bush in it. So this will match up very nicely with that. And speaking of, this installs very close to the roll restrictor, also known as the rear motor mount. It goes on the little bracket just in front of that, as you'll see once we get further into the install. Now this is what we get in the pack from Powerflex. As you can see, it's just a small little pack. It's just a small bush. Obviously we get the bushing itself, which is made up of 3 parts. So we have the 2 halves of polyurethane, which you can see, you know, there's a little bit of give to it, but it is pretty stiff. And then we have this insert, which is made of quality steel. So obviously the 2 halves go together like that approximately. Just sort of center that. Then Powerflex gives us these 2 big washers which fit perfectly on either side like that, and then they give us this little sachet of PTFE / silicone bush assembly grease. So get that all nicely lubed up and installed, and we will be good to go. So what this is going to do is it's just going to replace another one of our rubber bushes that is going to be very soft, squishy, and of course perishable, and it's just going to enhance that sort of roll restrictor, motor mount, whatever you want to call it, area, even more than we already have, without going too hardcore, of course. But like I said, you can get the Black Series if you want. It's just going to improve performance that little bit more, sort of getting closer to, like, I suppose a stage 2 bushing setup in that area, as opposed to just the simple stage 1. There are other options out there that replace the entire brackets and everything, but those are much more expensive than this. This is reasonably inexpensive, so I'd say we're going to get good value out of this because it is reasonably inexpensive, but we are still going to get all the benefits from it, so that is sweet. The first thing we need to do before we can actually get to this is, of course, get the bracket out that has the stock bushing in it, and that means taking off the under tray. I won't go into detail about taking the under tray off. It's pretty simple. You just go around the edges, removing all of the fixings, which are a mix of little like push clips and screws. Alright then, so underneath the car, this is the bracket that we are looking to remove right now, because this, if you can see, this is the rubber bushing that we are replacing. You can see the bolt from the roll restrictor goes through that, so of course we need to remove this. If you have the stock roll restrictor or the V2 Mountune, I believe that it's just a single bolt, but I have the V1, which means I need to hold this nut around the other side and then remove the bolt here, but apart from that, it's going to be the same for like any stock setup. So we need to remove this bolt at the front, so that'll be a 15mm socket we need for that. And then there is another one right up here, so it's kind of hard to see, but so just above where my finger is there, there is a little plastic cap which is covering the bolt that we need to remove. I'll probably use like a little pry bar or something to pop that off, and then we can get access to it. And then if I move around, there is another bolt then on the other side. So I'll start off by disconnecting the roll restrictor from our bracket. I don't know why Mountune were kind of awkward. So they made this nut over here 18mm, but they made the bolt that goes through 19mm, but it is what it is. So just going to hold it with an 18mm spanner on this side and then remove it with the ratchet on this side. Okay, and then back to our normal 15mm for this one here. So for this, I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for you to see this, but I'm just trying to get the pry bar underneath this plastic cap. Might be easier from this side. So we just need to get it lifted up far enough so that we can access the bolt itself. Alright, with that exposed then, 15mm once again. It's a bit more awkward, obviously, given its position. There we go. And then finally, just the one that is up here on the other side, and again, 15mm. I'm switching over to the spanner here just because as it comes out, there's not a whole lot of space to play with. But using the bigger ratchet to loosen it is a good thing, and then we can just get it out here. In fact, it might be easy. Yeah, I can just do it with my fingers. There we go. Once that is out, our bracket is completely loose and we can maneuver it out. Alright, before we move on then, now that we have the bracket out, you can see that, you know, there isn't really anything wrong with the bracket itself. It's reasonably light, it's pretty well made, it is, you know, solid. It's literally just this bushing that is, you know, the issue. You know, it's kind of squishy. And of course, being rubber, it won't last, it will perish over time. So, you know, you could go and get a full-on replacement bracket, spending hundreds and hundreds, but to be honest, once we do this, this is going to be just as good as anything else you're going to buy on the market. Just gotta get this one out, get this one in, and then we can put our bracket back into the car. Okay then, now getting the stock bushing out of there, obviously it's, you know, pretty well in, so we need to basically press it out. Now I don't have any, like, you know, special like pressing gear, so I'm gonna do a bit of a trick using my vise here. Okay, so what I have here, this is kind of random. This is like an old handle from the side of a roll cab that I never used, so I kind of bent it to like sort of match the sort of curvature of the side of our bracket without touching the bushing itself. And then on the other side I have a socket. It's a 21mm socket, which is a nice size for the metal insert of the bracket. So in this kind of rig, I am then just going to slowly but surely apply pressure with the vise, and as you can see, it is pushing the bushing out. There we go. So you can see that's literally just a random bit of metal because we needed to create some space for the bushing to be pushed out into. So now we should be able to just yank the rest of it out. Okay, now that we have that out, we can really get a decent look at them side by side, and I guess, you know, they couldn't really be much more different. So yeah, this is going to be a nice upgrade. Obviously the fact that this is in two parts hopefully will make it easier to get it in here. So I am going to, of course, use the assembly grease, sort of grease up here and then sort of squeeze that in there, and of course the metal insert up the middle, we're going to aim for that to be, you know, nice and even, slightly poking out the same distance either side. So let's do that now. Okay, so using our little sachet, got a glove on just because don't necessarily want to get lube all over my fingers. So apply that, I suppose, reasonably liberally. So now we can start getting that in here. Now I would imagine it will be a reasonably tight fit, so might not be able to, oh well. That went in reasonably easy. So might need to press this using the vise. So similar to before, just using the vise to squeeze, except of course this time we are squeezing the bushing in as opposed to trying to squeeze it out. And I do have this old rag either side just to like protect it as I push it in. So we're almost there, just a little bit more to go. At this stage I do need to put something either side just because we're going to get to the limit. Our insert is going to be poking out a little bit either side, so obviously we can't get a full squeeze. Now we can go and get this back into the car. Alright, so it's literally just going to be a case of slotting this back up and in and getting our fixings back in place. Just essentially the exact opposite of removing it. So I'll do that. I'll get this slotted in, get everything in finger tight, and then we will tighten them up properly. And of course, don't forget the two washers that need to go either side of here. Alright, now that we have everything in place, we just need to do our final tightening, and we're going to use a torque wrench. And for the small bolts, so the 15 mils, we are going to do 40 Newton meters, and the big one that connects to the rear motor mount or roll restrictor will be 80 Newton meters. Okay, so with everything tightened up, apart from putting the under tray back on, we are installation complete. Well, there we are then. That is the installation finished of the Powerflex lower engine mount small bush on the Focus RS. The installation was reasonably easy, not too difficult. The main sort of difficulty is just in removing the old bushing, but with some perseverance and ingenuity, got it out no problem. And then the rest of the install is going to be pretty familiar to you if you have done the rear motor mount already. So yeah, nothing too crazy there. And as you can see, I am in the car right now. I've had the opportunity to do a bit of driving with the new mod, and so far so good. There is a nice improvement in positivity in the gear change, which is nice. One other random thing that I wasn't even expecting it to resolve was that before, certainly when everything was cold, I would get a bit of clunking whenever I would be like first and second gear cold, and then like accelerate and then let off a bit, and that has completely gone now, which is really awesome. So I get the feeling that my stock bushing was on its way out anyway, so it was going to need replaced at some point soon. So yeah, if you're going to replace a perished rubber bush, you might as well upgrade to the Powerflex at the same time. So I'm super happy with this installation. I hope you like it as much as I do, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe for more content to come very, very soon. Thank you once again. Goodbye.